Have you seen Baby Reindeer on Netflix lately? If you haven't, spoiler alert, there will be a lot of mentions what has happened in the show. Go have a watch and come back and let's talk about it. But if you did, let me know in the comments below if you had exactly the same impression of the show as me. Let's go. Baby Reindeer show, one of the latest shows on Netflix, is based on a true story about Richard Gadd, played by Richard Gadd himself. The story, what I thought, was about stalking. Richard is being portrayed in a show as someone who wants to be a comedian and at the same time was working in a pub, living with his ex-girlfriend mom. So he was sort of like a loser, someone with failures in his life, someone who always had to justify himself to others and prove himself as well. And Martha, the woman who was stalking him, when they met, she very clearly caught on these weaknesses and she was a very likable person for him. So she overlooked all of these things and she always seen something positive in him, building up his confidence and making him feel good about himself. At the same time, she also got herself too attached when, Richard had completely different point of view of their relationship or how they knew each other. Eventually, Martha would be crossing the line in events when Richard would be going out with other people or engaging with others, and she felt she was going on a psycho mode along with following him around, and the whole stalking package was there. But this is not what, in my opinion, this whole show is about. It's actually about Richard and a Me Too story, very creatively implemented into this whole 7 episodes. In the middle of the whole series, there's one particular episode which is taking us back in time in order to show to the public what has actually shaped, Richard to become who he was. This is one of the saddest stories you will see out there. Richard tried to be comedian so hard. He was attending the drama school. He would be, doing comedy shows in his local little pub. He would not had much success, but he really was dreaming big, right? And one day he went to this party with people in the industry, and he would be mugged off by some people, and while the other person that came up to him turned out to be a director that was working on one of the Richard's admired shows, and they kind of like become friends. But what was happening was the fact that man, that person who was director in the industry, was like Martha. He was feeding of Richard's insecurities, of his low confidence, of the desperation in him to become someone in comedy, in a movie, and that man was using it for himself, to satisfy himself, just like Martha was using Richard. Is that all these mental health issues, but at the same time, when it comes to that man, it goes beyond that. So they would be spending time together, and eventually this director would give Richard a proposition to work together on some project and gave him a lot of hopes and dreams, would be building up Richard to become completely dependent on that guy and spending more and more time together until they start using certain substances, and Richard would be losing conscious during these episodes, and eventually it led to him being abused. Sadly, that was not only one instance. It would be repeating itself, because every time Richard would want to space himself out from this his desperation and his dreams would be still there, and every time this man would ring him again, he would be running back to him, until there was this line that was crossed again. That episode, I think it was episode 5 if I'm not wrong, the further 2 or 3 episodes, it didn't matter to me anymore, because okay, I understood now why Richard had certain issues with himself while he was how he was, how this shaped him as a person in relationships, dealing with his life. And this is a grown-up man, who knew exactly what he wanted. The fact that he has mentioned this in his show proves to me that he does want people to know this story, right? This is in his show. show. He had that one lifetime opportunity to make a show about his life, and he decided to put that story in the middle. That for me says that he does want people to know what happened. Now, maybe Richard is not going to go on the TV show and run the interviews around the country and in order to reveal the identity of the man, but he does want people to do the digging. I believe so, but people did. So there's a lot of, already investigations and theories going on online about who this guy is. I'm not going to be mentioning the names because we don't know, but certain people already have been approached in the industry by the public seeking justification to this, and obviously the justice in itself, and name and shame him. So is Richard gonna reveal it himself? Because so far all he has to do is deny that no, that's not the person. How far can this move on? Because now public are becoming a stalker. Public are becoming a mafia looking for that guy. The whole industry is just rotten. It just proves one of these theories that in order to be successful, you either are entertainer or entertaining. That's what I said in the last episode with Justin Bieber. If it's a fashion, if it's a music, if it's a movie, can you not see the same pattern everywhere?
I used to hate that side of myself. I used to go to bed at night and wish I could wake up in the morning and wouldn't be there anymore. I liked who I was before. I used to blame myself so much for what happened. Why did I drink it? How could I be so naive? My fault, his fault, my fault, his fault, my fault, his fault, my fault, his fault. And all of a sudden 6 years have passed and I'm not young anymore. In some ways I wished it was my fault. Like if anyone was going to fuck my life, I'd want it to be me. But it's not my fault. It's not my fault. And I don't know how I feel about that yet.
Let me know, guys, what you think. If I'm far from the truth, or what are your feelings about the show?